to the Monday, June 27, 2022 meeting of the West Clermont Local School District School Board. Mr. Romano, could you take a roll call, please?
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney.
Present.
Mr. Patton.
Present.
And Mrs. Brinkman and Mr. Chumley did advise us that they will not be able to attend tonight.
Thank you. We have a need for executive session. It's a recommendation to withdraw an executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee, and to confer with an attorney for the Board of Education concerning disputes involving the board that are subject of pending or imminent court action. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Okay, a second?
I'll second it.
All right, discussion? Mr. Romano?
Mrs. Delaney.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
3 yes.
Okay, we're returning from executive session. Mr. Romano, could you please take roll?
Yeah. Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Present.
Mr. Patton?
Present.
All present?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mrs. Adams, I believe we have recognition.
Yes, and Mr. Hornsmeyer is going to come up and share that with us today. And you can tell John is really excited too. He's coming also.
I wanted to present to the board Mr. John Pfeffer, just graduated this school year. He won the R.A. Horn Outstanding Achievement Award for a student, which is an award for our area of Hamilton, Butler, Warren, and Clermont counties. So I'm just going to read a description of what the award was for. The R.A. Horn Award is presented to one exemplary special education student from each of Ohio's 16 state support team regions. This award was established 25 years ago by the Ohio Department of Education in honor of the late Dr. Raymond A. Horn, Assistant Superintendent of Public Instruction Emeritus. This prestigious award recognizes students' remarkable performance. Acknowledged as a national leader in the field of special education, Dr. Horn devoted more than 60 years of service to improving the quality of life and learning for students with disabilities. Dr. Horn left behind a legacy and a challenge to ensure that every student with a disability be given the respect and the opportunities to which they are entitled. So I'll read what we as the school district turned in to nominate him. John has been a hardworking student all 4 years while he has been a student at West Clermont High School. His hard work has paid off in the classroom and allowed him to earn honor roll every quarter. His hard work is also exhibited in the school's Aspire program. The Aspire program is a program to help teach students job skills, life skills, and transition skills. As part of this program, the students do jobs around the school, practice working with job training boxes, and go to job sites to learn and practice job skills. John readily volunteers to do jobs around the school and always works with his best effort and is pleasant and polite to staff and other students that he encounters while working. John is routinely the most proficient student when practicing with different job training boxes. John has really been able to translate the job training from the Aspire program that he has received when going to actual job sites to put his skills into practice. He has had an internship at Sun Chemical, a local company that primarily makes ink for printers. John started with the easiest job at the site, labeling and taping boxes, but so quickly excelled at that job that the company promoted him to other jobs. He has been able to program computer chips on an assembly line faster than a regular employee could. He has shown enough good work ethic, skills, and professionalism that Sun Chemical is ready to offer him a job upon graduation. So you're starting next week. So he'll actually start a full-time job at Sun Chemical next week. He also participated on the school's wrestling team. So this is the actual award here, John. So congratulations. And then we as West Clermont. West Clermont would like to give you a certificate of recognition. So congratulations.
You can get in with him, Scott.
Get in there.
John, I got to be a part of the virtual recognition that they did statewide, and just to hear them talk about you and show the pictures, it was such a proud moment. It's very prestigious that you got this award, and the fact that you took what you learned in school and now have a job because of it is exactly what we're trying to do for West Clermont graduates, and so we are so proud of you. Do you mind coming up and shaking the board's hands, coming up here and saying, so we can say congratulations? And with parents and family, why don't you guys stand up and also be recognized for your support, John? Oh, okay, wonderful. Thank you for joining us.
Very good.
Okay, we understand. It's a beautiful summer day, so thank you, and happy
you.
graduation.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda
So moved.
in a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion? Ms. Romano?
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Pat?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
3 yes.
Thank you. Do we have any cards for public comment?
We do not.
Okay. Consent agenda, 7.01 personnel. Dr. Foltz?
Good evening, members of the board, Mrs. Adams, Mr. Romano. In front of you is the personnel agenda for June 27, 2022. On the agenda today, we have the resignation of 2 administrators, 10 teachers, 1 paraprofessional aide, 1 rescinding of an offered contract. We also have the proposed hiring of Tracy Ray, principal of West Clermont Middle School. She was unable to join us today, but she'll be at our next board meeting. We have Curtis Mason, the supervisor of special education. He is here, and we'll introduce you to him later in the event, in the day. Melissa Myers is also here, the assistant superintendent, assistant principal. Whoa, I promoted her already. The assistant principal at WT Elementary, and she'll be meeting with you later this afternoon. We also have the proposed hiring of 10 teachers, 1 health clinic assistant, 3 paraprofessional aides. Reed Hollinger as our new assistant athletic director at the high school, and 1 cafeteria manager. On this agenda, we have the proposed transfer and reassignment of Charles Tall from head custodian at Holly Hill to the district maintenance. Lisa Couch from the cafeteria worker at Summerside to the cafeteria manager at Summerside. And Julie Meyer, paraprofessional at West Clermont High School, to campus coordinator at West Clermont High School. On this agenda, we have the proposed offer of extended days for the middle school principal and the secondary education case manager. We also have the proposed approval of supplemental contracts for home tutor, multiple coaches. Included in this agenda is the proposed approval for requested unpaid leave of absence, the hiring of classified substitutes, and multiple school volunteers and student teachers. Finally, in the work beyond the contract section, included in this agenda is the proposed approval for the following payments: a cooperating teacher stipend, extended school year instruction for students with disability stipend, summer preschool evaluation stipend, and a summer school stipend. This concludes the review of the personnel agenda. Submission for your consideration.
Dr. Foltz, is Mr. Stewart, the cafeteria manager at the middle school, a parent in the district?
I am not sure. I'm not certain. Yeah, I can check on that for you.
It's no biggie. If it is, I know him. He's a very good man.
Okay.
Talking about Rex Stewart? Mr. Stewart? Yeah, he is. That's who you think it is.
It's nice to see a male going in there. I don't remember a male ever being in the cafeteria.
I'm not certain how long it's been. I'd also just like to take a moment to talk about our open enrollment applications. We've had some great difficulty, as you may know, of filling our open staffing positions, especially in the areas of special education and advanced math and sciences. Currently, we are processing through all of the open enrollment requests for next year. However, due to the new funding model, we will not be getting additional funds for open enrollment students like we have in the past. So we are building decision-making rules that follow policy and protects our class sizes and our program sizes. We will be notifying parents before July 1st, so hopefully by tomorrow or the next day. In all fairness to those students who we do accept, we want to make sure we are able to adequately support and educate them. Okay, just want to bring that to your attention.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Preston is going to bring the student fees forward after she finishes crying.
Sorry. Don't wipe up some tears. Good evening. Tonight I'm bringing to you for your consideration the student school fees for the 22-23 school year. I'll just highlight a few changes. I'll say that Mrs. Lawson worked very closely with the high school administrative team, primarily Mrs. Otten, as well as the instructional leaders, to really As we do every year, try to really look at our school fees that we're charging with a fine-tooth comb to really ensure that we clearly understand what the fees are to be utilized for, and that we're, attempting to keep costs as low as possible. So that's always the decision rule that we're using. So I do want to just call out a few changes for you. Most of the changes that exist are actually a reduction in fees in certain cases, but there are a few that are increased fees, primarily for our ACT College and Career Readiness Preparation course. In addition to the online test prep materials, they're also making a request for the students to purchase a paperback test prep booklet as well, the official ACT prep guide, which is sort of the hallmark prep guide material. And so that does include a $15 fee increase for that particular course. And then I'll also just highlight two of our art courses, our ceramics courses, due to significant increased costs for materials for that course. They are requesting an increased change in those fees. The other, changes, and you'll note that those are highlighted in red on your copy, that the others are, reflect a decrease. Any new course, so a course that's not currently in existence for this year, is also highlighted in red. So it doesn't necessarily reflect a change from last year to this year's fee. It just indicates that it's a course that's new, and therefore we didn't previously have a fee listed. Any questions related to the request for fee approval? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Romano?
Okay, thank you.
7.3.
Moving on to item 7.03 is a request for approval of minutes, and that is for the May 23rd meeting. Item 7.04 is a request for approval of the minutes for the June 13th work session. Item 7.05 is request for approval of the donations. And if I could, I won't read all of them, but I will at least read the donors. We have 11 of them this month. Forward Edge, RJ Cinemas, Everything Bagel, Longhorn Steakhouse, Sweet Frog, La Rosa's, Rapid Fire Pizza, Smithfield Meats, Glen Este Baptist Church, Clermont Soil and Water Conservation, and Health Source. Just a note on the donations, they are significant to us to do a lot of things that otherwise we wouldn't be able to do, so we certainly appreciate those donations. Item 7.06 is request for authorization for the superintendent treasurer to execute agreements for the district services. There are two of them listed. One is for Rain Associates, and that's the agreement for the Medicare review. Those are for years 21, 22, and 23. Those are in arrears, but we do have Rain Associates do those reports for us. And then for Midtown Health, for the management agreement, it's a one-year extension to manage the Healthplex. Item 7.07 is the request for approval of the financial statements, billed pays lists, and investments, and those items are attached in that file. So any questions on any of those items? And so the consent agenda is item 7, that's item 7.01 through item 7.07.
Okay, looking for a motion. You've heard the recommendation.
So moved.
Okay, a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Mr. Romano?
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
3 yes.
Okay, moving on to superintendent's business.
Yes, Mrs. Lawson is going to come up and share our student-centered learning ecosystem. Dr. Storr, are you coming with her? No, you're not. All right, she's all by herself. Yes. The reminder to you about this big mouthful of words, student-centered learning ecosystem. We talk about the ecosystem to include 4 key points, or parts, I mean. One part is really the instruction and the education. Another part is our partnerships that we engage with. It's different roles for teachers, students, and our community at large. It's about the learning environment, not only the classroom environment, but learning beyond the walls of the school, from libraries to outer space beyond the walls of the school. And then finally, the last component is really looking at data and technology and how you have to leverage both of those to really to enhance the value of the other three. And so we, this year, were able to partner with a consultant and work with several teachers that she'll tell you more about to start to bring this to life and give it a more tangible sense in our community of once students and teachers start working together with our partners to solve big problems, what can come of it? And that's what she's going to share.
That's such a great intro. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you tonight and talk about this work. This really is the work of the future, and I think it's legacy work for our district. So basically, we set out to, which way do I point this thing, Dan?
Turn it on.
Oh, that's what I missed. Larry told me, and I still didn't do it. Feeling very aggressive with my points.
Then we'll do it this way.
Feels like it could be a me issue. It happened, yay. Okay.
Just his presence
Yes.
fixes everything.
I know, see? So a lot of the things that matter the most are the things that are hardest to measure. And when you look at our portrait of a graduate, we have big dreams for our students. And making our portrait of a graduate a reality is no easy lift. And so we really set about, okay, well, where do we start? Well, we start with the willing, and we start to try to join community partners to see if we can bring relevant, authentic, and community-connected learning into our classrooms so that our students can truly create these lives that they desire and achieve our portrait. I'm really reminded of this quote from Kennedy about going to space, actually, so it was funny that Ms. Adams made that space reference. He said, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. That's the part of the quote that we all know. But this next part of the quote really gets me. It says, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and our skills. And so we're doing hard things because they matter so much. And so what is the fellowship? The fellowship was a group of willing 30 educators who said, I don't really know what this thing is that you're saying about partnering with people in the community and figuring out how to make, a modern learning ecosystem, but I'm in. I'm in for this, and I'm willing, and I'm in. And so they joined us in this little journey. And it is amazing what you can accomplish with a small group of people. That's how all, I think, powerful movements have been started, with people who believe and are willing to roll up their sleeves and try. And so I just want to take a moment that while I'm the one speaking tonight, the real unsung heroes of this entire experience are our teachers, our community partners, and our students who are willing to say, we're doing things that we've never done before, but we're willing to try and keep trying and learn and keep trying again. So in short, what was this thing that we did? We gathered monthly for learning, both virtually and in person at various moments with the partners that Ms. Adams mentioned. So we had Dr. Tim Kubik, co-founder of Project ARC, who specializes in relevant, authentic, and community-based learning. We partnered with Community Share, which I've shown you actually, had the pleasure of showing you that platform in this exact room. It's basically a human library where we can start to connect teachers with community partners and see if they can make, solve real problems and real challenges that different members of our community might be grappling with, and give our students that sense of wow, I really matter. I can make a difference today. I don't have to wait till I'm an adult to make a difference. And so we set about just trying to figure out in these monthly meetings and through community projects, how might we engage our students at a high level? I mentioned at the beginning, what matters most is often hardest to measure. And so we, in a moment, I'll tell you about a tool that we use to see if these projects with community members and the way that instruction changed, if student engagement levels changed. We were actually able to measure that, which was really exciting. But if I could just quickly summarize the journey that our teachers were on, these brave teachers who said, yeah, I'm willing to try this hard thing. I don't know exactly what this is, but I'm in. They really were trying to move from compliance in the classroom, so Certainly compliance is important. We need safe and orderly classrooms, we need well-managed classrooms, but that's the floor, not the ceiling. And so what does it look like for teachers to get students really excited about the content and excited about the skills that they're learning? That's what we would call the engagement level. And then furthermore, what does it look like to have empowerment in a classroom where students actually are empowered to solve challenges that they're curious about and excited about, and to actually pursue things that are interesting to them and be equipped with that teacher who's more guide on the side, facilitating that learning environment for them. And so I won't spend too much time on these graphics because they're quite meaty, but just to give you some examples of when I said we were gathering monthly for learning, these are the kinds of things we were grappling with. What does it look like to have what George Couros would call an innovator's mindset as a student, as a teacher? And so there's many different qualities. You want to be empathetic. You want to care deeply about the people around you, inside of the school system and all over our community. You want to be problem finders, not just problem solvers, but actually get really curious about the world and figure out what problems are there out there to be solved. You want to be a risk taker and be well networked, which is where community share comes in, and our community partners came in to work alongside us. The hardest challenges are quite complex. We can't solve them on our own. We all have to work together. You want to be observant of the world around you, and therefore get creative with the things that you're seeing and you're trying. You want to be resilient, which you see in our portrait of a graduate, and you want to reflect on what you're doing and whether or not it's working, and whether you need to pivot and try something different. And so that's really what the teachers were doing in the classroom with their instruction, but it's also what kids were doing as they were exploring problems and challenges for real members of our community. So when you look at today's classroom, it's going to look a lot different in the future because the needs of our world and the modern learners are different. Our world is changing, and it's changing at a rapid pace. And so you'll see things more like voice and choice in the classroom, where students are more empowered to truly co-create that classroom environment and actually have some say in the way that they learn. They can speak for themselves about the things that are working well for them, and they will have time for reflection, just like we want teachers to take time to reflect on what they're doing is working or not working. They'll have opportunities to innovate and think critically, find those problems, solve them, take a step back. Where am I in this process? Is it working for me? Is it not? Am I solving this problem? Am I not solving it? And they'll be really connected with each other in the learning. And that's really what this whole experience was about for our teachers. They were really connected in their learning, both with the community but also each other. And I think something that I probably haven't talked about enough when I talk about the ecosystem is the sense of community. We all want to feel seen and known, and like our work really matters. And there was this sense that wow, we're really doing something special, and I feel really seen and a part of this community, and I could do hard things, and I'm doing something that a lot of other people haven't tried yet. And there was a sense of pride that came from being a part of this special community. So I'll stop speaking in ambiguity here, and I will actually tell you about some of the exciting projects. I wish I could spotlight all 30. There were 30 educators, K through 12. And I say educators, not teachers, because we did have people who were coaches. We had people who were a counselor, so we had many different roles represented. But I'm proud to spotlight just a few, although I wish I could tell you about all of them. So one example, this comes from Rebecca Elliott's English class at the high school. Her students were deeply entrenched in the power of storytelling and hearing people's stories, and how do we find ways to elevate people's voices and their stories so that we can feel both connected but also learn from the experiences of others. They interviewed people inside of the school, but they also actually went to Provision Living and spent some time in the retirement community interviewing members of that community. And it was not just, oh, wow, we got, our students got to talk to them, and it was, that was a great opportunity for them. We got such great feedback back from Provision Living about, wow, listening to these young people and dialoguing with them, it really filled me with hope for the future, and it made me realize that, some of the things that you hear about kids these days, maybe it's not so true. And so there was a sense of hope that came from both of them. And so that was a really special, and then she's captured alongside her students on a podcast, the stories. So that might be a fun follow for you. Then you have Mariah Fannon's financial literacy course, and we're very thankful for our partnership with Bob Palke. He came in, he was talking to the students about entrepreneurship and starting businesses, and what does it take, what are the kinds of things that you need to be thinking about. And her students, as a part of that course, developed projects that either solved a challenge that they see out there in the community, and therefore, like, what would your business be that would solve that community challenge? Or many of them actually became passionate about problems inside their own school that they wanted to solve. And then many different partners, too many to mention here, but came in and actually gave students, because this was Shark Tank style, like feedback on their projects. So they got authentic feedback from people who were outside of our school and different members of our school community in different roles. I had the honor of doing that, Larry joined us. There were many of us who were really proud to be a part of that. This is actually an example of a student website from Kelly Taylor's class. So she teaches 6th grade ELA. Students did a lot of research and connection with various people about what makes Cincinnati special and what would it look like to create a website if you were like a new student or a new family moving to Cincinnati. How do you highlight like all the best of what Cincinnati has to offer? And so this looks like a very professional website. This is one of many professional sites. And it actually has our students wondering what it would look like to build something like this about West Clermont, about their school, for new students. Like, what does it look like to have students caring for other students in really meaningful ways when they enter middle school? So you can see how, like, one question leads to another question, and we've got momentum, and we've got some empowerment that I was talking about. Here's some fun greenery that was grown from, again, in the middle school. So we had Jared Nissen and Lacey Walker and Madison Allen. We're all doing work related to food sustainability, growing food, and also like food waste. And so the students started to wonder what it might look like to grow food that was fresh and delicious and healthy and nourishing that could be included in maybe like a Wolfpack pantry. And so that was a very fun and meaningful project that continues to have legs that they're going to see through a little bit further into next school year. They partnered with so many amazing people. A couple of them worth mentioning, though, Kat Zelak from the Clermont Soil and Water Conservation, Gigi Neal from our OSU extension, and Boy Scout Troop 542, just to name a few. And in keeping with the food sustainability, that was a really hot topic for our students. This is just an example of the planning timeline from Kim Reese in her 4th grade class, who also studied food waste. And they had all kinds of fun charts and graphs, actually measuring the amount of food waste so they could wrap their arms around, like, just how much food are we wasting? And what might we do to waste less food in the future? And so that was a really meaningful problem that they, too, were trying to solve. And then this is a really cute final one that comes from a kindergarten class. So in Megan Lewis's class at Merwin kindergarten, they were studying the big bad wolf as they're growing those early literacy skills, and they started to ponder, what would it look like to build a structure that the big bad wolf could not blow down? And so they continued to tinker with, how do I build this really sturdy structure? Try again. They were working in groups. They were talking. Oh, this didn't work. Let's try this instead. And then, as you can see, we have a simulation of that big bad wolf with the fan there, trying to blow their houses down, and they got to see for sure, did my structure hold or did it not? So you can see that you're never too young to solve, a real problem. That could be a real challenge. We need sturdy structures that we can all live under and enjoy our families inside of. So I'll let the participants speak for themselves with a couple of nice quotes. I want to elevate their voices. I love this top one from a teacher. When I incorporate community partners, it just brings a different level of appreciation, understanding, and engagement for kids. And then this one, I lost myself as a teacher during COVID. This project gave me a chance to learn as an educator and find joy with a co-teacher. And this one, kids are so aware of each other when working together. They're helpful, not negative. And this last one made me laugh. We had an opportunity to learn how to work with real team dynamics. We shifted from crybabies to try-babies. So the most common response of all, though, was really that we're better together, some version of that we're better together, which I know is really at the heart of what West Clermont's all about. We're better together with our community partners, with each other, partnering with our families, our teachers, our kids. And so, what gets measured gets done. And so we measured at the beginning of this experience what student engagement looked like in those classrooms. These brave teachers were willing to say, I'll try this new tool that's supposed to measure what's called student engagement in these 4 categories. It's a student experience 21 tool through Patel, it's new. But they were measuring hope engagement, belonging, and 21st century learning. And so those are hard things to measure, but basically students answered a series of questions. Their answers were anonymous. The teacher never knew, who was saying what thing, but they got to see, here's how kids are currently feeling in these areas in my classroom, and actually how they answered on certain questions. And then they went through this experience together, and they wanted to see, does this have an impact on student engagement? Does it have an impact on hope and belonging in 21st century learning? And it turns out it does. And so before I highlight my favorite piece of the research with you, I just wanted to elevate one important, why are we measuring these things? It turns out that according to Battelle for Kids' their research, hope is a stronger predictor for future success and than any other academic measure. Okay, like if you can measure hope, like it's a stronger predictor than GPA, it's a stronger predictor than ACT score. It is one of the strongest predictors. It's also one of the hardest things to measure. And so we're grateful that there's a tool out there that we could tinker with to try to measure whether or not our students have hope, meaning hope for their future, like hope that they can create these lives that they desire. And it turns out, and this is what's inspiring to our teachers, that if you have hope, you can give hope. It's like a muscle that you can grow. And so hopeful teachers lead really hopeful classrooms, just like happy teachers lead happy classrooms. And so, we're deeply committed to figuring out how can we continue to take really good care of our teachers and inspire hope in them that what they're doing it matters and it's working, so that they can lead these hopeful classrooms, so our kids have hope and that they feel inspired to try and that believing that they can have something better, even better than what they're experiencing today. And so in a 2-month period of time, our scores on the following went up an entire percentage point. Oh, now we're going to have some suspense. You going to help me out, Dan? Thanks for the assist.
Try it again.
There it goes. So in a 2-month period of time, our scores on the following went up an entire percentage point. And 2 months is not a long time in the grand scheme of things for an entire percentage point of growth. That this teacher makes me excited about my future. So we grew hope. Like you can actually grow it, and I'm really proud of this hardworking group of teachers and educators that they were able to grow hope in our students. They deserve that.
Well, and I'll add the Battelle for Kids group where we have this tool, they've been in partnership with the Gallup company. And so this is deeply rooted in research over a long time, not just something they whipped up last year. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so there's a quote by John Dewey that Dr. Tim Kubik reminded us a lot of in this experience, that we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting upon experience. And there was a lot of opportunity for our teachers to reflect on their practice and a lot of opportunity for students to reflect on their thinking and their learning. And so as we reflect on what this experience has meant to us and to this school district, there are a few things that we're inspired about for the future. One, we want to continue to take really good care of this group of 30 and see if we can continue to deepen their learning and their practice as it pertains to partnering with community members. We want to see if other teachers are inspired to join this movement and get more teachers involved in a fellowship 2.0, so to speak, to see if they could partner with community members, do some learning, try some projects out, measure learning. We're also deeply grateful for Nate Mahan and the work that's happening this coming school year with bringing more opportunities to students outside of the walls of the school, more internship opportunities, connecting our kids with opportunity. It's such an important job, and we're so excited to have someone dedicated to growing opportunities for kids with these community partners. And the last thing I'll just say is this a couple weeks ago, for summer learning, we had high school teachers as one part of their 2-day summer learning experience. High school teachers actually went out into the community and spent half a day with a community partner. We had people go to UC Clermont. They were at all kinds of fun, exciting places, and a huge shout out to all of our partners. But they came back and there was electricity coming off of them. You never know quite if things are gonna hit for people or not. They've had a really long school year. They work so hard. Teachers never cease to amaze and inspire me. And they were coming back with all these ideas about how they could partner with the community and partner with UC Clermont and create more opportunities for our students. And I think that really is what makes West Clermont so special, is the way that we continue to persevere and find creative ways to take really good care of our students and grow opportunities and learning for them. So, and really, I think that this is one example of how together we really do learn, lead, and succeed. So, thank you. Any questions?
I just have a comment. Your blog that you wrote after the teachers and staff had gone out to the community, that just inspired me. I was so excited, and it's just amazing that, you know, something so simple, and it's like it's all, you know, it's been in our back pocket, but we just, you know, didn't think, and we looked outside the box and made it something exciting. So, I mean, we know it's working for our kids, and we're now using it with our staff, and that's just going to put more energy into our gas tank to keep things going.
Thank you for that. I think it's just amazing what happens when you simply talk to students and talk to teachers, and you partner with as many people that are willing. So, and thank you for reading my blog. That made my day.
Well, what we're excited to share now is our new website, because there's going to be even a special place on this website to continue to tell this story that Megan started today. We want to be able to, with each project, put a narrative up there, some pictures, and really promote the West Clermont way of doing business with our students in new and exciting ways. And so, Jeffrey, I feel like we need like a drum roll. Do you have that? Did you bring that with you? I feel like we need one.
I didn't.
I thought for
I should
sure
have been
you
more
would have
prepared.
that. Okay.
Can you do it for,
I think I need them.
oh, you need the mouse. I was supposed to throw it to you.
I can try, yeah, that's right. So thank you, Superintendent Adams and board members for giving me the opportunity to share with you some of the work that we've been doing in the communications department in regard to our district website. As you've probably heard me say before, our areas of impact in the communications department are that we develop the public perception of the district. We champion the West Clermont story. We drive the district brand. We strive to move people beyond just consuming information to creating content that engages and involves the community. And so this website project, I believe, touches on all of those areas. To give you a little background, prior to all of the last couple of years of the new normal, we began the process of looking at our current district website and in fact all of the communication tools that we use for internal communication, for external communication, and any other way that we engage with people. And one thing that we did was we did a communication audit. We surveyed our families. I did an in-depth work session with you as board members and solicited feedback. I met with cabinet, with principals, with department heads, really doing a lot of listening and trying to find out what could we do to improve our website. And so we have been spending the last year and a half or so kind of rethinking how the district website functions, the way it looks. And so I'm proud to be able to show you the first phase of that particular project. You may have noticed that there's been a theme this year in lots of different ways, beginning really with our State of the Schools month in February about West Clermont being a story worth telling. And that theme has continued throughout this year and is reflected in our website. Because one of the purposes of this new website, one of the main purposes, is to tell the district story. As we began to look at our current site and evaluate other school district websites, we discovered that that's not something that most school districts do well. We are great about just pumping out information, but actually telling the story of our students, our staff, and the community partners that we have is not something that
many districts do well. And so we wanted to place an emphasis because we do believe that West Clermont has a story worth telling. So the focus of our new website is on telling the district story. And the primary audience is for people who are exploring the area, whether it be someone who lives in the area that's considering moving here, someone that doesn't live in this area, maybe being reassigned from another state, they're being transferred in their job, or local community members, realtors. That is the primary audience for our westclair.org website. And so that is what has driven our work here. So if everything goes as planned, which it always does, tomorrow morning, we will flip the switch, and when visitors go into their web browsers and type westclair.org, this is the website that they will see. And as you can tell, it looks different than our current site. And really, it gets down to the way the site is organized. Because we wanted to, again, tell the district story. And so rather than just list out, here are the links for this, and here's where you find the calendar for that, we really wanted to take our viewers on a journey. And so throughout this website, we start with talking about our district story. And we move into talking about our team here as a district. Then we talk about and share our student experience, and then end with talking about our community. And so one of the first things we tried to do, knowing that this was a new way to think about a district website, is right at the beginning, make it an easy way for people to quickly find the things that they're looking for. If they go to the site and they already know what their question is, they can determine if they're a visitor, if they're a current family, if there's a staff member, and those links will change depending upon who they are and what types of questions that they do have. One of the great things about this particular site, in redesigning it, it has our top 4 most requested features. If I would have been prepared, I also would have like a David Letterman top 10 music and such, but the 4 most requested features of our website, first and foremost, is the ability to translate the website into many different languages. And so I will show you that built-in feature here in just a second. The second most requested is the ability to search the website. Believe it or not, our current site, for most of its existence, has not had the ability to search for things. And so that's something that we have worked in partnership with our new vendor and Google to make sure that there's a robust search feature in this website. An up-to-date staff directory with correct information. That is the third most requested piece of information, and this site certainly does that. And I know for many of you, including our superintendent and board members, an accurate and easy to understand calendar is one of the highlights of this new website, because quite honestly, the current calendar is not so good. It's putting it nicely. So this site, I think, is going to meet the needs of all of those 4 things. So let me show you some of the things. So when you go and explore about our district story, you can find out, if you want to just find out about us, learning about our district and what makes us unique, and about our portrait of our graduates. You can find out some statistics that make our district different and stand out from other districts. You can obviously learn about our mission and vision and our values. And as you can see, we've also made a priority in telling our story to focus on our students and our staff. So almost every page in the website features prominently our students and our staff, because that is what our story is about. So underneath the story, you can also look through our district map if you're someone that's moving here, wanting to learn more about where our boundaries are. You can also quickly search using the school locator, put in your address, and it will tell you about your what elementary school your child might attend if you would be moving here. There'll be, right now, there's our history based upon the plaques that are in the high school, and I'll tell you more about something that's coming in this area, but it really gives a nice sense of the history of our district, which is something that is not on our current sites. And then we move on to our team, and right at the top, our Board of Education. So I'm sure that you're just dying to see how your information looks. But we are, again, really excited to be able to show and tell your story. So this particular site actually has some thoughts from you on your highlights of your experience as board members and what you think West Clermont, what makes West Clermont unique from your eyes, and puts your voice front and center to our work here. Then, obviously, there's the calendars and such, and what here? So we have our board information page. Each school then also has their own unique page. So alphabetically, we'll click on Amelia Elementary. And so each page has a welcome from that particular principal, telling a little bit about their school with some photographs to get a sense of what is happening in that building. And then also some of the special programs and traditions that each school has. Because as you know, walking through each school has its own culture, its own style of the way that makes it unique, and so we try to capture those things. We made contact information easy for people to find, and then also be able to search the staff directory for that particular school. Let me show you the event calendar. So, for example, each individual school has its own building event calendar. Plus, we also have a board meeting calendar, a district-wide events calendar, and no matter where you are on the website, you're able to show and hide and show those various calendars. So because I was in Amelia Elementary, right now I'm just browsing the Amelia events, which there aren't any in June and July. But as you can see, there's card tag pickup for Amelia. But let's say you also want to see when the next board meetings are. So all you have to do is select on the calendars, select the Board of Education, and with any luck, we should now have.
While he's doing that, it's another opportunity. If you have a student at Amelia, a middle schooler, and a high schooler, you can click on those three and have all the dates pop up at once. But you do it personal to your family or your situation.
Yeah. So then now there are, this person can also see the board meeting events. If they also want to see what's happening at the district level, they can, let's see, click on the West Clermont School District and add that to their calendar. So you can, again, kind of fill in your calendar however you want to view it. But what really makes this powerful is that it does also have the ability for people to subscribe. So it gives you right here the information on how, if you want to add this calendar to your phone or to your computer, your iPad, your tablet. It gives you the instructions on how to add the calendar right to your device. And whenever we add something to the calendar or make adjustments, those things are synced, and you'll always have the most up-to-date information on whatever device you have. So, again, that was one of our main goals, was to improve that aspect of our website. Let's go back to the board, since we like to look at our board. If we scroll down here to the bottom,
what, I think one thing that really it came about in our About Face work this year was understanding the need for us to be able to communicate with families whose primary language is something other than English. And so that was a key part when I was meeting with various vendors to find out what is your, what features does your platform offer to quickly get information in correct languages for families. So on any page in our new website, all someone has to do is select the language. And I took German in high school. I will not make any attempt to try to speak it because I'm even having trouble seeing it. But all you have to do is select the language, and the entire site has been translated into that particular language. If there are multiple languages, they could go here and change it. So let's say you're not a Spanish speaker or a German speaker, you speak Spanish, you can select Spanish, and then the entire site, no matter where you go, is translated into that particular language. So now I know that our most favorite language is French, so I will also end with showing you the French, and I hope that you don't find any translation errors. I'll let you explore that, Mr. Reedy.
That's really cool.
That is very cool.
I think it's
Dr.
gonna be-
Storr, how many languages, I remember the last time it was like 20? 18, okay. All right.
Okay, so, our search, the one thing about the search function is that because we have partnered with Google to get the most accurate information, it does take a short window of time once our site actually goes live for Google to index everything. And then once it indexes it for the first time, it will continually update it. So right now, the search function is disabled because according to Campus Suite, our vendor, it takes almost 2 weeks for Google to fully index everything. And once that does occur, then we will turn on the search module and you'll be able to search the entire site just as like you were doing a Google search. So you could search for board members and it will show all the information just like you were searching Google, but limited to our website. I know that I am running over time, so I will show you a couple other things. So we have our story and our team, and we spent a long time really trying to capture the story of what the student experience is, because we have been working so hard at improving and engaging students with their experience. We wanted to showcase that. So from an academics standpoint, that's obviously one part of the student experience, and so you can learn, someone can learn about at the elementary level, what the academic experience, student experience is like at the elementary. You can find out about diverse learners, all of the various programming and supports that we have for students with all different needs. There is a section on the resources and supports for learning. So, for example, our One to Wolf program, telling the story of about our students' access to technology, and so on. So again, academics is one part, but we also have arts, athletics, and activities, what I like to refer to as the AAA of the student experience. And so, for example, for our fine arts perspective, we have lots of opportunities for kids, not only at the elementary, but also the middle school and the high school, to have various classes in the arts, as well as after-school activities and programs, so people can get a sense of what that experience is like. For our academics, we can see what types of sports are offered at both our school-sponsored sports at the middle school and here at the high school. We also have links to our the athletic website that has all of the breakdowns for staff rosters and coaching and all of the stuff that is specific to them, and the boosters and our athletic fame. And then also our clubs and organizations. So what makes school unique beyond what just happens in the classroom? There are lots of opportunities at the elementary, middle school, and high school for kids to explore. And what I really, as I was reviewing all of this today, I think this really captures it. We provide an experience that gives the time and space and resources for students to create the lives they desire, to be courageous in the face of challenge, and to pursue their personal happiness and joy. So that should sound familiar to you, and I think that this really captures all that our Portoba graduate is trying to accomplish here in our student experience. We have our whole child student services. So again, clinics from the Wolfpack Pantry, a section about safety and security, which outlines our four-pronged approach to safety of the whole child. So you can see not only from physical safety standpoint, but our social and emotional wellness, our cyber safety, and our crisis response. So people get a good sense of what the student experience is like from a safety standpoint. Our school counselors, information about how those, the resources and supports that they have, and so on. And then as Ms. Lawson was just sharing about WC Your Future, we have information about the various opportunities that kids, that students have to engage in experiences that take them beyond the classroom, that help them prepare them for their future. And we'll be featuring some success stories and other really interactive things that will give people a good sense of that as well. And last but not least, our community, where our alumni can quickly find how the number one thing that they often will request about transcripts, how to get involved with their education foundation, a little bit about our community for people who are considering moving here, so about the various activities and local arts and sports and all kinds of things that make this area unique. Instruction.
You might have to link that student website to this, once you get a look at that.
Yep. And information about our education foundation, and yeah, a link to order spiritware, how to rent the facility, and so on. So I know that that is kind of a crash course in where we are, but this is phase one of our project. Again, the primary audience for this website is people that are outside of the district. The next part is the focus will be on our current families, so our Wolfpack Hub. We have worked to update that for this coming school year.
Can you show that just on the front page,
yes.
like the tab where they would go to, just in the meantime?
So when you go here, if you click on current West Clermont family, it will take you to the Wolfpack Hub, which right now looks very similar to what it used to, because it is the same thing. But what we will be doing is moving this over into the new platform that our new site is, which will make it even better than it is. And there'll be individual school pages, so families can drill down and get more information about their particular school, and so on. And then phase three will be, remember my key commands to go back, since I'm not on the same browser here.
While he's looking for that, I'll just mention something. Jeffrey used the word "we" a lot when he was talking, and we do have a small little team, but the truth is, this is Jeffrey. This is what he's been creating behind the scenes, working diligently all year long to bring this to life. And his vision, his talents for this, I think, is going to make it a better user experience for anybody, no matter what role you play with our community. And one thing that's cool to me about this is that he connected with our partner from Campus Suites, who happens to be a West Clermont alumni, who's the CEO of this company. And so he's working with us and really putting a lot of special time and attention into the West Clermont website, because he really wants to help make this a kind of a flagship model school district website that kind of transforms how school districts communicate with their families, and is using kind of Jeffrey and his talents as a pilot in so many ways. And so we're excited about like where it stands now, and what the possibility is.
Yeah, the reason that we kind of segmented off the Wolfpack Hub to be a separate phase is that Campus Suite and Steve Williams, the CEO and West Clermont alumni, is really helping us rethink how we communicate and engage with families. And it is really exciting, but we didn't want to throw everything at everyone all at once and then it'd be chaos. So we thought we'll start with this. People are familiar with the Wolfpack Hub, but the Wolfpack Hub 2.0, it will be significantly more engaging experience for families, and we're excited to show you that. And then the third phase will be a staff portal, which is essentially a version of the Wolfpack Hub, but for staff, because there are things that, resources and information that the staff members need as well.
Can you show one more thing, show the bottom with the work and
Oh, yeah.
volunteer and
Yeah.
just that one piece?
So our call to action, it's up here on the main page, but at the bottom of every page on the site, give these four, again, call to action buttons. So to quickly find out about working in West Clermont, or volunteering, which takes you to the community share, sorry. And here, pay no attention to the name. Then we have a new section called Give, which kind of outlines the ways that people can support our district, as Mr. Romano was saying earlier, to help kind of provide opportunities and support things that we aren't able to fully support with our general fund. So there is information about giving to the district, and then how to, that's one of my favorite pictures, connecting with our district on various platforms. So I do have a few things. This is just the beginning, as I said. Later this summer, we'll be incorporating some photo galleries for each one of the schools, where the principals have already been forewarned that they will be needing to improve their appearance, because they will be now showing in videos, welcoming people to their school. Well, not all the principals have to improve their appearance, just a few of them.
Just a few.
But they'll have some welcome videos rather than just a welcome letter. We also will have an interactive district history, which is pretty exciting. I do want to take a minute before I sit down, even though I've taken up way more than my allotted 3 minutes. I do want to say thank you to you as a board, your insight when I've talked with you and heard your concerns. I hope that you feel that we have worked to capture those. Thank you for supporting the work of this department. Thank you to Superintendent Adams for hours and hours and hours of rethinking and trying out, and what if we did this, and what if we did that, and looking at other websites and saying, oh, that's great, oh, that's not so great, let's not do that. Really has been a huge part of this process, as well as the cabinet members, each of them giving their time to help compile and get the stuff that I need to help tell their story. I also want to give a specific shout out to Mr. Priest and to his assistant director and his tech team, because without their help, this would not have happened, and without their help, tomorrow morning's flipping of the switch will not happen. No pressure.
I know.
I want to thank Mr. Gebhardt, who has been really involved the last few weeks in kind of wrapping up some of the final pieces of this, the website, The principals, I've been constantly, for the last year, digging them with, hey, here's your next assignment, here's your next assignment, and as well as the DLT members. Staff members, I've reached out to staff members at all different levels. I've gotten lots of pictures and exciting content from them, and to our families for providing feedback and suggestions on, in a kind way, suggesting ways that we can improve our current district website that I have tried to incorporate here as well. So I know my work and our department's work would not happen without all of you, so thank you.
Ooh. Keep our fingers crossed for tomorrow morning. Can't wait to hear your reaction.
Beautiful.
You're overwhelmed.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Are we going to, as we launch it tomorrow, you know there's going to be feedback. Are we going to accept feedback? And are we, like, do we have the autonomy to shuffle and make things?
Yeah, that's one of the things about our current site that is very difficult, is that it's the ability to change and do much other than putting new text on there. It was really not possible. And this particular platform, one of the reasons we chose to go with Campus Suite was the kind of almost unlimited ways that you can tweak and manipulate and redo and change very easily and expand the site based on feedback, based on our, as we continue to grow and get more content and rethink how we engage, that can really easily be plugged right in. At the bottom in tiny print, you can't see, there is one little thing that says, say, submit feedback. I made it really super small. But in all seriousness, we will take feedback. I really appreciate it. I know usually people are like, I'm sorry to point this out, but I really appreciate when someone does find something that maybe doesn't work correctly or whatnot. I spend hours trying to make sure.
We haven't talked much about this, but I'm thinking probably just like a new tech tool as it hits the market. You got to test run it. Yeah. And then you build like a roadmap of, okay, well, we can fix this during this window, and then we'll work on this. Because we do have a targeted launch for the Wolfpack Hub and then a targeted intranet launch. But we want feedback. We want people to test drive it, because we tried to design something that was more intuitive, and we got to figure out where it's not intuitive and course correct.
Jeffrey, first of all, you did a great job. As you were talking, I was kind of moving around some of the pieces as well as I was listening, but I was moving around. As far as the comments and stuff, I think anytime you put something new out, there's going to be a learning curve. And so I think some of that's just going to be the learning curve. People's used to the old way, which was a struggle. Again, this was easy. Like, I checked the attendance. You can actually submit. There's no more trying to find the attendance email. You can submit right here. But again, I would just say that with some of the suggestions for change, it could just be that it's going to take a few for people to get used to.
Well, and that's why launching it now, so we're not launching it when it's like,
Yeah.
school starts tomorrow, everybody figure out this new thing right this second. So it gives some like play time, and as we think and build our back-to-school products and communication, we'll do some like educating and maybe screenshots or something, or video or something to like help the navigation. So it's just, we got to get it out of our hands into the world's hands to figure out what needs more clarification.
Great job.
Thanks. It will go live tomorrow, and my plan is that I will obviously get a lot of initial feedback, and then we'll slight adjustments, things that are like obviously need to be fixed. I can correct quickly, because then in our district update on the 30th, which is Thursday, we will include a section about just letting people know that the new website has launched. Here's a little bit about it. So I anticipate even more people using it after Thursday.
And correct me if I'm misspeaking, but I feel like every page has a lot of the same elements. So no matter where you are, you can navigate to calendar and get back to where you were without getting completely lost. That wasn't possible with our current site. So that the
Nothing
calendar
was
and the key pieces they just constantly keep repeating throughout the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, every time I would meet with a new website vendor, the first thing they'd say, well, I looked at your current website, and I always had to say, please don't look at our current website.
Yeah. It really stinks.
We understand that there are some areas for improvement. Can you tell me about what would be new on your website? So, yes, I think this is going to be a great experience for our
Is there an app that will be associated with this that will look and smell and taste like the website?
Yes, yes, and that, that's part of the Wolfpack. I feel like it should be more than 2.0 because it's more than, it's
Yes.
like 6.0. Yes, there will be.
We counted up recently about, was it 6 or 7 apps that exist in our district? There's the bus tracker app. There's the app that comes with this website that nobody uses. There is the app for
Power School.
Schoology. There's the app for Power School. There's the app for Remind.
Remind, yeah.
And I feel like there's another one. But it was and none of those apps, because they come with different products, talk to each other. And so part of what he's working on in this Wolfpack Hub version 2.0-ish is to figure out how we can create a better app experience without having to create a district app, to be able to use this company's app that brings everything under an umbrella. And that's just no easy feat, and that's why we don't want to rush it. We're trying to figure it out so it goes smooth and well, because each app has its own benefit. We're trying to find umbrellas that can house things under them cleanly for people.
The big shift for this, for the way we're thinking of a district website, is that there is nothing on the current, when you go to westclair.org, there's nothing on that site that is specific only to West Clermont families, current West Clermont families. Our goal is that everything that a family member would need will actually be on the Wolfpack Hub. So the answer to any question, if anyone asks, well, how do I find, our goal is to be, well, that's on the Wolfpack Hub. Because what we found is that school districts try to create a one-stop shop for everyone on their website, and then it's confusing and actually not helpful for anyone. So rather than try to cram everything into one site, we've tried to parcel out based on the audience. So the primary audience of this is people that are just learning about our district, but then there is a whole another world of things that our families need. And we don't want people to have to be clicking back and forth trying to find stuff. So we're trying to create, the Wolfpack Hub will be the one spot for families to go to.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeffrey. Well done. Okay, very exciting. So yes, keep those fingers crossed for tomorrow's launch. And we have a mailer going out. It'll be in the mailboxes within the next, 6 or 7 days. That has an announcement about the new website. It has QR codes to link to some important things like our town hall information, and just as a kind of a call to action for the community to stay engaged with us, follow us on social media, and stay connected. So that's coming out. Item 8.03 is the Citizens Advisory Commission research assignment. I brought that forward to give you guys all a chance to officially approve the assignment that we'll hand over to the CAC. We had decided in last weeks, or 2 weeks ago when we were meeting together in a work session, we talked about that a possible topic for the CAC would be to study student and staff safety and security. And so this is meant to frame the physical and cyber side of safety, not the social emotional side of safety, that this team will take on. And to give them a very clear what's in scope for their research, looking at infrastructure and our policies and our procedures and how we partner with our community on this. And what would be out of scope is the social emotional safety, because we're going to have another team working on that. And so the idea is that in the end of this work that they do together, they'll come out for you guys with clear safety and security research. And so that'll be both perception data inside of our school system on what stakeholders believe is safe and not safe. It'll also include best in practice, or best in class kinds of what's best out there, and they will make some recommendations that the board could consider, short-term as well as long-term changes, and provide that recommendation for you to consider. So this is just to try to give them direction. And so I don't know if you have any feedback on this. We did highlight that we're going to assume that the risks here are that the feasibility of acting too slowly or too quickly. So we want to make sure we have a measured approach to get the big picture. The assumptions are that there will likely be financial implications to the recommendations, that we would likely come out with short-term and long-term solutions, as I said, and that we have to be very cognizant as a school system who border or who intersects with many different jurisdictions, that we're all kind of marching on the same page. And so those entities will work with us in building this plan and recommendation. And as always, constraints relate to how our teacher contract workday, state guidelines, our finances and time. So this is a pretty open-ended project, yet there are some things that will keep us in the lanes that are important. So do you guys have any questions about this or feedback? Because I'm asking tonight that you approve this as the research task that we give over to CAC, and they'll pick up their work again in August.
I know some of our safety stuff, there are some things that we do, so like reunification points, those are kind of I won't say a secret topic, but there are some things that are not necessarily known in the public. I assume there will be guidance as to what.
Yes,
Okay.
because there's some things that we just shouldn't talk about in the
Correct.
public. Yeah, so we have to be, it's kind of a careful dance that we will do there. So we want to give enough confidence to you guys and them that those things are attended to without revealing things that we shouldn't be talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we'll, I know right now, Mr. Rudy and I are the representatives that are part of that. Will we continue that, or?
Yeah, the
do
way
we-
the CAC guidelines work is that's a 2-year commitment, a
Okay.
2-year membership. And so what I'll be doing, once we get the approval of this, I'll be reaching out to all those team members and say, okay, are you, here's the next assignment, are you still with us? And then there were some team members that had to drop out
Step
along the
out,
way
yeah.
just because of the time commitment was too much. And so we'll look at backfilling with some people that might have some expertise in this area that bring, and to make sure we're just covering, a collective wisdom here. So we'll be, so I might at some point be coming back to you with new names to consider. Yeah. Okay, so the request is that you approve the CAC research assignment as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second?
All right, any discussion? Ms. Romano?
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney,
Yes.
Mr. Rudy.
Yeah.
3 yes.
Sorry.
I said with just 3 of you here, you had to be on it, so you are.
Sorry, I
That's
jumped
right.
ahead, I apologize.
It's okay. And then what I want to just give you from a high view is where we see the follow-up from town halls from here on out. So the plan right now is to take the data from the REACT reviews and from what we gathered at the town halls, and for me to bring a report to you in August that kind of summarizes, this is all the perception data that we gathered up until this point, and now we're ready to make our next move. We have a town hall agenda already created. There is one scheduled for September 22nd, and there's one scheduled for December 8th. So we will do similar interactive, big events that bring a lot of stakeholders together, talking about topics. They will not be the same topics, they will be the same topics. It'll be the 5 topics we've been talking about, but it'll be carried out in different ways. So if you came in the fall, or if you came in the spring, it would still be wise to show up in the fall because the conversation continues and deepens. It's not a repeat. So we will follow that method and make it very interactive and make it something that even our principals, by the end, will be able to lead those kinds of sessions and continue the conversation throughout the school year by the end of this. So that's one thing that will be consistent. What we'll do here at the board level is that once I give that main report in August, we will then divide up the data, whether it's student and staff wellness, or if it's about transportation, or facilities, or our configuration. We will divide that up to different pre-existing teams that already exist here in our school system. They will look at the data, much like the CAC looked at the data. And they will start to explore, well, what else do we need to know? What other research might be out there? Or what are some best-in-class ideas in moving forward with how we configure, or how we set up our facilities, or. And so they will start to study that data and then bring to the board committees. So for instance, this safety committee would bring to the education committee, this is what we recommend going forward. The education committee that already exists with the board will then help us determine, A, does it need board action? Do you have to actually approve something? Is there a policy change? Does it require an investment of money? Or is there something that there has to be board action on? If that is true, then we'll start following those steps. If it's not necessary and it's something we can implement with little effort, then we could go ahead and just start making an implementation plan. And so it'll either be something low-hanging fruit, something that we can act on right away. It will be something midterm that maybe we can't act on right away, but we could put in place for the next school year. Or it needs to be a longer-term item where we determine this is a big financial, big move for the district, and we have to put this like for down-the-road planning as we look at possible funding as we go forward. And so the board committee, once they receive all the information, in much like the same manner that where CAC brought you data as a board and then you made a decision, we're going to bring it to the committee level first at the board, and the committee will determine then what goes forward to the board. And so we would start that work in the fall, and then by winter time, as the calendar turns, we'll be able to bring those recommendations to you. And that would put us about a year from now, like where we're sitting today, we should have a strong direction as to where everything is leading. When it comes to our transportation, our facilities plan, we'll have a good start to that. We'll know what educational programs are important, what social emotional programming or what physical safety things we need to change. It'll start to give us some real strong direction. And so a year from today, we should know where are all these meetings, all these engagements, all these town halls, and all these surveys, where is it leading? Well, it's for 1 year from now. You have a strong sense, and we have a strong sense of where we're going, and we start to make that direction take place. And then anything that goes beyond what our current budget can handle could go into a longer-term plan. So do you like the concept of having some internal district teams work and then bring it to the board committee as a way to kind of process and be able to give your input before we bring it to the big board? Does that make sense to you?
I like that.
Okay. I'm trying to give a sense that people see that it's not just feedback, and what are they going to do with all this feedback? Like that there truly is a feedback and then a group of people that are going to work and try to come up with a proposal that we could test out there. And I'll just use an example of what I mean by that. If we wanted to explore WCOA again, the West Clermont Online Academy, let's say that becomes a strong indication based on the feedback that we got. Well, the committee might bring it back to the board committee and say, we want to do WCOA, but we want to do it a little bit differently. And so then the idea might be that you suggest to them that they go test it out there. Do a survey to families and say, would they subscribe to this model of WCOA? Would anybody even sign up? Does anybody care? And so that might be something that we test along the way, just to say, is this interesting at all to people, or is it dead on arrival? And so that's how the ideas will progress. That the internal team will create some recommendations, test the water with those recommendations, so we get closer and closer and closer to the ideal, next version of West Clermont. So questions about that or comments on how we see that working?
I think it's going to work really well, and it's mirroring the whole presentation that Mrs. Lawson did, what we're doing with our staff. It's just we're trying to incorporate that whole mindset, and we're going to really drill down to what our customers want. And our customers are our families and our community and our students and our staff.
Right. Yeah. So we still have a lot of listening to do, a lot of curating of information and wrapping our brains around, but it will shift kind of mid-year where we start to say, okay, based on everything that we know, these are things that we know as educators are ways to make this happen, and so we'll start making suggestions. Okay, so that's all I have.
Treasurer's business?
Okay, thank you. First item I have is item 9.01. In fact, most of these action items that follow are some kind of year-end financial cleanups and things we have to do to end this year, start next year. The first one, 9.01, is request for advances and transfers for fiscal year '22. That's this current fiscal year. What that is about is this. They're typically at the end of the year, there's some transfers we do to the athletic funds at the middle school and the high school. Those are pretty consistent. The district does run the supplemental coaches through those athletic funds to do that. There's a commitment to supplement that at the end of the year. So there's $95,000 requested for transfer to the middle school, $369,000 to the high school. That is typically what we do at the end of each year. The second part of that is the advances to other funds. Years back, we used to get funding from the state and the federal on those grants. We used to get some money up front. That changed a few years back, so where we're spending the money first, we go seek the reimbursement for that or the draw for that. Well, what that does is that means we have to fund it until we get that draw back. The funds that are listed there are primarily the state and federal funds. It is consistent with the past. It's about $2,375,000 that we're really kind of doing the cash flow for those state and federal programs to do that. So item 9.01 is a request for advances and transfers for fiscal year '22 as presented.
You've heard that recommendation. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Mr. Romano?
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
3 yes. Thank you. Item 9.02 is amending and supplementing the annual appropriations for FY 2022. That's this current fiscal year. That resolution is really to bring in alignment with the appropriation authority, how the money was spent this year. You'll note the increases, within the amendment and supplement column. So for example, for the general fund, the resolution you just approved for the advances and transfers, that nearly $3 million gets added to that. There were some other adjustments because of the way the fair school funding model was put in place, where originally we thought some of the tuitions and the things that were going to be backed out weren't 100% backed out. We noted that when we did the 5-year forecast. So for the general fund, this adjustment is in line with what we did for the 5-year forecast that you approved in May. The other items are some additional funding that we received and or additional spending based on money that we got or have in place for that. So item 9.02 is amending and supplementing the annual appropriations for fiscal year '22. And again, that's really bringing in line the spending authority with the way the funds are being spent.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Romano?
Thank you. Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
3 yes. Thank you. Item 9.03 is the temporary annual appropriations, and this is for this next fiscal year, which starts July 1st. The way the practice is in this county is that typically in any other county, there's a certificate that's done of the estimated resources based off a tax budget. That tax budget procedure for Clermont County was waived. So as the district goes forward, we're required, we can't do an annual appropriation measure, a full appropriation. We can only do 75% of that, and then in September or sometime after the official certificate signed by the county auditor and the budget commission, we can do a full appropriation, which is our budget. So item 9.03 is a temporary appropriation, so it's about 75% of what's expected to be spent during fiscal year '23 in July 1. That allows us to continue paying the payrolls, start obligating, creating purchase orders and spending money into fiscal year '23. So the numbers you see there aren't the full appropriations. They're only about 75% of what we expect. So item 9.03 is request for the approval of the temporary annual appropriations for FY '23, which is the year that begins July 1st.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion? Mr. Romano?
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
3 yes. Thank you. Item 9.04 is request for approval of purpose and budget statements for this coming fiscal year FY '22 and '23. There are various funds at the school district level for student activity accounts, whether they're student managed, whether they are administratively managed. There are principal funds, basically for different fundraising that goes on at the school. One of the measures that is required, both for compliance, also by policy, but also because it's just really good practice, is for those activities to tell us how they're going to spend, how they're going to raise the money, how they're going to spend the money, and really what the purpose of those funds are for, okay? The importance of that purpose is, and as the board accepts that, you're really defining the public purpose, okay? So what they provide to you and what you approve really is saying, it's okay, by law, you're allowed to spend it that way, okay? So the purpose and budget statements, and these aren't all of them, some more will filter in July, August, and probably some more as September starts, okay? This is really the authority to define what a public purpose is for these funds and a budget of how they're going to receive the money, how they're going to spend the money. So item 9.04 is the request for approval of purpose and budget statements for the fiscal year starting July 1, 2022.
For the recommendation, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Mr. Romano?
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
3 yes, thank you. The last item is, item number 9.05 is student fee waivers. We instituted a new process this year. What we were seeing is that over time, that there were some uncollectible fees for students that what we deem as inactive. In other words, they're no longer attending our district. There were attempts made by the school where those fees were assessed. Some of those fees got passed on to the next school, whether if they were at an elementary, they went to the middle school. So there was an effort to try and collect these fees. There was an effort by the treasurer's office to collect these fees. These fees have been deemed uncollectible, and we're requesting that the approval to waive these fees for inactive students as presented. Noted with that is, I told you there was a new process in place. As we move forward, there is a little bit more diligence with collecting fees so that it's not going over a period of time. We've noticed that, as the fee doesn't get paid in year 1, it just builds up in year 2 and in year 3 and almost becomes almost insurmountable to pay. So the more we can respond within that current year and not let it drag on, the more we believe it will be collectible. So our plan is that as we move forward in the future, items like this shrink down, right? And we're either collecting or there is an option for parents to request a fee waiver for certain conditions. And so we're just being more diligent to addressing those things. So the request on item 9.05 is the recommendation to approve the fee waivers for students that are inactive within our school district.
Okay, I'll put that out on the floor in form of a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Patton, discussion?
I do have one question, Mr. Romano. On these, I know like with high schools, can you no longer, I know at one point, I believe it was common practice to sometimes hold transcripts before, so if they went from our district to another district, you wouldn't release until they were settled up with us. So that could be Chromebooks, that could be, is that not, is that a complicated question?
We're really not allowed to hold the transcript on that record for that student. So there are, if that request is made, and quite frankly, it becomes a public record request for that too, or can be. So the release of that to the student is pretty much inevitable.
Okay. Thank you.
The key is for us, is not to wait to let it get that long, and to try and address it right up front the best we can. And again, there is a policy in place, which I think is, we have reviewed that policy, and there's means to have that if they meet certain conditions to have that waived.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Anything else?
I have another question too. So, this is not something that just this year that we're waiving this amount. This is something that typically happens every year, correct?
Well, this has been cumulative.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's, most of the way the policy is set up, fees that are waived in the normal sense do not have to go in front of the board.
Right.
These have been fees that over time have accumulated, and in essence, we're trying to get up to current, so that we can just focus on collecting current. Okay.
Anyone else? Mr. Romano?
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
3 yes. Just a couple comments, and it was nice, the conversation, especially the last comments that the superintendent made, really about this district being collaborative. So whether it was Mrs. Lawson, who, spoke from the academic point, Mr. Rao, who spoke from developing the website, superintendent talking about, the different committees to do that feedback. I have to once again, and I know I did it at the last board meeting, but compliment the administrative team for putting the budget together for next year. It was a different process. It is not the treasurer's budget, okay? It's the superintendent and her team's budget that's being put together. So compliments go to them for doing that. It was pretty collaborative in doing that. The second note is it was nice within the last month or so to go with the superintendent and start the relationship route and the advocacy route with the overlapping governments. That's been a good experience for me, for someone that comes from outside the district. Only been here 2 years to meet those people. But it was really pleasant to hear their positive, insights on the district from those governments. The other thing that I think is important is we also heard Dr. Foltz talk about the open enrollment and how that has to be reduced down, mainly because of fair school funding law that's been put in place. For a lot of other districts, they can still open their doors because money will follow those students. For our district, because we are under a guarantee, okay, if students come, they don't come with the funding that they did in the past. Until we're outside of that guarantee, they don't come with any funding. It's good that we want to assure that the students that we have, we can properly provide those services to them. It's also fair to those students that we may not be able to accept that if we can't provide those services to them, they find the right school district to go to too. But I think this is just one of the items of the fair school funding model that is going to awaken some school districts to identify that, hey, things aren't like they were in the past. And although there's some positive aspects of that model for this district, it's not all positive, and there are some things that we need to advocate to our representatives and to other representatives throughout the state, that we need to make some tweaks in that model. We can't just have the burden fall on our local community. We need to make sure that the state, if they're going to increase the education budget, which we're coming up to another biennium, okay, so there's going to be some legislative action there, all the way from the executive order from the governor to the legislators, that people need to know and understand that if they're putting significant dollars into the education budget and this district is not getting an increase or possibly losing money, that something's wrong with the model. So I was glad to the point that as we talked to those overlapping governments, we were to share that story with them, that I think some of them were surprised, to know that, which really means that if they're surprised, there's a lot of people in the community that will be surprised with that too. So we've got to make concerted efforts for that. That's all I have.
Okay. Board comments? Mr. Patton?
I hope everybody's enjoying their summer. I do appreciate all of the presentations this evening. Everyone's presentations were wonderful. They were definitely well received. I am excited about the website. That's definitely something that will be, I think, received well within the community. So, and I do continue to appreciate the work that Ms. Adams and Mr. Romano does for our district and moving us forward. So I definitely appreciate that.
Piggyback on Mr. Patton, hope everyone's enjoying their summertime, and there's always something going on in West Clermont. So it's positive. There's lots of positive. We have a lot of amazing people coming into the district and getting things ready for the first day of school in August, and can't wait to kick off a new school year in, oh my gosh, like
Don't remind me.
a month and, whatever. It's like the summer's half over already. It's crazy. So, but I appreciate everything that everyone does to make this a better place. And I'm proud to sit up here.
I'll reiterate, thanks to everyone. Mrs. Meyer, we're glad to have you here to keep tabs on your husband. I wondered if that was the underlying reason for you taking the job. He knows I'm just kidding. And early happy July 4th to everybody. Okay. We do not have need for an executive session, okay? Looking for a motion to adjourn. I'll throw it out in the form of a motion. Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, Ms. Patton, discussion. Ms. Romano?
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mrs. Delaney?
Yes.
3 yes.